Hello, welcome to another StarCraft TV cast. This is Allyssa Gray. Today we're going to be looking at a PvZ between Ruin and Yapsap, two relatively unknown amateurs. Down here on the bottom left hand corner is our Protoss player Ruin. And up in the top right hand corner, the Zerg player Yapsap. So our player Ruin used to be on STX Seoul as a B-teamer back in the day, during the Kespa era, and then once Kespa switched over to SC2, he went to go play for Incredible Miracle, where he had some success in team leagues. Ruin has never really been able to nab any success individually. He's been knocked out of Code S the one time that he was in it. Didn't even qualify for Code A, so it was a little bit unfortunate. And after his SC2 career, he basically went to the military, and he's come back fairly recently, within the last year or so. Sorry, no, I guess it's been since about 2017, 2018, since he's been back. But he's just been playing relatively low-key. He did play in the ASTL recently, so that has been pretty good for him. Again, very much a team player. You see, he's a pretty standard player. He's going to be going for that Nexus first. That seems to be his sort of calling card. It's just really standard, solid play. Meanwhile, Yapsap, our Zerg player, also going for the very standard 12-hatch play. Actually, 12-hatch is a little unusual in this matchup, but I think he probably knows that his opponent is fairly passive, very much a macro player. So Yapsap is another amateur player who hasn't really made much waves at all. He participated in the Challenger series for ASL, but he was unable to actually qualify due to losing to Scan in the semifinals. But still a decent player overall. I would say overall these players are a little bit evenly matched. But Ruin does have a slight advantage in the fact that he's had a little bit more experience. He's lived, or he's been on a team and practiced with other people, so he does have a little bit more in the experience field, but overall I think the skill levels are fairly similar. So we're going to have our pretty standard play coming out from the Zerg, just a 3-hatch. Pretty interesting to take this 3rd hatch up here. This typically indicates more of a Hydra play than taking one that's more of a straight line or a far away third base, a la Larva. Meanwhile, our Protoss player just playing super standard, maybe going for that cannon early on to defend himself versus any Ling pressure. Pretty good of Yapsap to stick to only these 2 pairs of Lings. That's going to give him a little bit of an advantage as he goes into the later stages of the game, because he'll have extra drones. He doesn't really need to do very much right now. I would say overall this is the most standard of standard games right now. Just the Cyber Core coming down, the cannons finishing. We'll probably see +1 start pretty soon. This is all very, very super standard. Pretty interesting that Yapsap is not spending any energy actually chasing down this probe, just putting the 1 Ling on the A move and walking across the map. So he's just checking to see if there's any sort of pressure before his Overlord actually gets there, but he's actually sending his Overlord back pretty early. It seems like he decided that he wasn't really going to get anything done, so he's just going to back up some and start chasing down this probe, probably. Meanwhile, drones. We see the lair, we see Ling speed, all very normal stuff. Let's see what happens when lair finishes. Is he just going to go straight for the Spire? Looks like it is going to be the Spire going down in just a moment. There it is. And we'll have to see if this is going to be a Spire play into... We'll have to see if this is going to be a Spire play into Mass Beetleless, or if it's going to transition a little bit more organically into the 5-hatch, 6-hatch Hydra that we usually see. Meanwhile, Ruin has his Stargate up. He's going to be getting those Corsairs up very early. Citadel of Adun, We do see in the natural this gas, which indicates that there's going to be a Templar Archives coming up immediately, who's going to be going into Corsair DT. If you don't see this early gas going up pretty early, it's most likely going to be a 4-gate Zealot, 4-gate Speedlot Rush with the Corsairs, and it just does a lot of damage early on. That's just something that as a Zerg player, it really helps to have an Overlord over this point, just so you can see this gas early on. But for the most part, it's not a big deal. He actually sneaks in an Overlord over here. And I guess this is a little bit of an attempt to be sneaky, but he decides to put the Templar Archives down in the natural instead of in the main. Whatever, I feel like it's pretty obvious at this point what's going on. Meanwhile, Hydrogen, Evo Chamber, and the 2 extra hatches plus the gas coming down. So this is where Zerg production kind of just explodes. As soon as they get up to their natural, once they get up to a good drone saturation, and once they have enough of their infrastructure up, basically it's just going to be non-stop units for a while until they can take the 4th. So overall, this is pretty good. Scourge are out. They're going to be chasing down that Corsair, sending it back home for now. And right now, these things are just keeping an eye on the front, just making sure that nothing is going to surprise Yapsap, and he's keeping just tabs on Ruin at all times. Ooh, bit of a mistake to lose that one, and actually getting another hit on him. This is him just kind of scouting on to make sure there's not like a second Stargate that went down or anything like that, but he should have seen the Templar Archives. He shouldn't be surprised. This is going to be the Corsair DT. Unfortunately, losing all of those Scourge means that he has a lot less control over the air. He's going to have a couple of Hydras out to deal with this, plus Sunken Colony at the 3rd, and probably one coming up at the natural pretty soon. So he's okay for now. It's not the end of the world for him. Overall, very standard game. Basically, we're just waiting to see if the Corsairs can get any real damage done. Looks like they're going to pick off a free Overlord, which is pretty nice. And actually, it's a pretty big deal because, okay, here we go. Another Overlord getting here just in time. But this DT might still be able to pick off a few good pull, so. And this is very nice. Actually finding another Overlord to pick off. He's going to pick off yet another Overlord. But the DT does go down, so. I mean, while it's always good to get this pressure on and kill off a couple extra Overlords, it's not the end of the world for Yapsap right now, so. Overall, pretty even. We have our upgrades coming in for the Hydras. A couple more Scourge are going to be coming in pretty soon. And right now it's just getting a whole bunch of upgrades for him. We're looking probably at the Protoss player. Once his Gateway Explosion comes up, he's going to be switching into a lot of units and trying to take that 3rd. Interesting run by... Whoa, he picks off one of these DTs. Wow. Is he going to be able to pick off the other one? Oh, the Ling's glitching out and not getting in. They could have definitely probably attack that, unless this is like a weird wall. I've never seen this. I feel like if a Templar can move through, a Ling definitely can. I'm not sure. Is he gonna lose a whole bunch of Scourge again for free? No, it doesn't look like it. Good split so far. Oh, no, not very good split. So a little bit of a mistake there. Losing a bunch of Scourge for free again. He's got to remake those. And all the while, every single Scourge that he makes is basically that's basically gas out of his pockets that he could be spending on lots of lurkers, that he could be spending on tech, etc. So, don't particularly love that. We do have the lurker aspect on the way though. And if the Protoss player doesn't get out of his base in time, you can definitely set up some sort of a lurker contain and make it really impossible to get out. Especially if you're on Templar Zealot. Templar Zealot really just doesn't do very well at all versus lurkers, but in this case, it looks like he got out pretty early. He's got his 3rd base going down. So Ruin's in a pretty good position right now, and I really want to see this 4th base come down for Yapsap pretty soon, especially now that he's got that lurker tech on the way. Once he's got a few lurkers out, it should be pretty easy to defend this 4th base from the Zealot Templar push, especially since he sniped one of those early Templars, so there's going to be 2 less storms than normal. Only 5 gates still, so this is a little bit surprising, but I guess at this point he's just trying to prioritize getting this 3rd base up, getting a lot of cannons up, as well as getting this robotics facility up so he can get observers out and deal with the lurkers. So overall, I guess this is actually pretty decent. I guess it's technically 6 gateways overall. I'm just running around with these zealots trying to buy time. So this is overall pretty nice. Fourth base going down now for Yapsap. And at this point, he's going to be going into lurkers. Ideally, what you want as the Zerg player is 4 base saturation plus your 4 gases. Once you reach that point, you're going to get really, really strong. But oh, he's actually going to be going for this attack in on the Hydralisk. This is actually a pretty technical thing where the Hydras are trying to split, but the Zealots are actually trying to split as well and get on top of them and circle around them. And that was overall a pretty decent fight for both players. I would say that was a pretty even trade overall. And since the Zealots are really not needed, limiting the count of Hydralisk is actually a pretty big deal, because that means that the Zerg player has to respend it. They can't spend that extra money on upgrades. They can't get a free Hive, etc, etc. So, but speaking of, Hive is on the way. We also see +1 carapace, +1 attack on the way, as well as a 3rd upgrade, which I believe is over here. I believe that's actually +2 ranged attack. So basically, Yapsap is getting all of the things that he wants right now. He's got his 4 bases up, he's got this gas going up. He needs to make sure that he gets a couple of Sunkens here and maybe a Spore where his Overlords are hanging out, just to make sure they're safe. But right now it's basically just a point where he defends up until he gets the Hive, and then once he has Hive, Cracklings plus the Filers just rip through to Protoss. So it's a different way of pressuring your opponent by playing very safe and just getting a whole bunch of upgrades and getting a whole bunch of tech. And right now the onus is on Ruin to actually get something done. So he's got this army moving out now. We'll have to see if he does actually get anything done. We're now up to 6 + 4 is 10 overall. So we've got 10 gateways. That's quite a lot of gateways. Fighting up this ramp could be a huge mistake, but pretty decent storm so far. Going to be able to pick off 2 of those overall. But so far, this is actually going pretty well for Ruin, as long as he can continually reinforce this ramp with these lurkers. Yeah, Protoss is never going to break up. So this was actually a huge win for Yapsap. Being able to waste about 4 or 5 of those storms is actually a pretty big deal. And how many storms do we have left? We have approximately 3, close to 4. Another one on the way. Oh, he's actually going to send it back home to his 4th base. Oh, this Ling run by, and I love this Ling run by. This is definitely something that as a Zerg player you need to make sure that you're doing constantly, is just threatening these run bys, killing off free Templar, preventing the Protoss player from just getting a free base up with a whole bunch of cannons. You can get that done early, it's a pretty big deal. These Corsairs are actually still getting stuff done. This is actually quite nice. It's difficult to get a lot of value out of them later in the game, but in this case he's doing a pretty good job. Yapsap's macro is pretty much on point. He's not doing a fantastic job of necessarily being where he needs to be at all times and taking a little bit of free damage, but overall, like, his upgrades are on point. He's getting to exactly where he needs to go, and now that he has Cracklings out very soon, these are going to be very, very scary Lings, especially because they're 1/1 now. Probably +2/+2 is being worked on right now, so the Cracklings are just going to get scarier and scarier, and having this 4th base up already is a pretty big deal. He's going to be taking a 5th base and pretty soon a 6th base as well. This is getting a little bit scary for the Protoss player. And getting in here, killing off the cannons and resetting the cannon count, killing off a couple of probes, it's all a pretty big deal. It's going to make a pretty big difference just because he's pulling this Protoss army back over and over and over while he's still getting ahead in all of these upgrades. So this is looking really, really beautiful right now for our Zerg player. Everyone is looking for some sort of opening, trying to get in there and do some damage somewhere. He's got his support bait out, so he'll be going into the Reavers coming up pretty soon. And Reavers are just a beautiful way to break these entrenched positions like this, especially once the Filers are out. Still though, this becomes much more difficult to actually deal with, especially having these swarms up on the high ground. basically just makes it impossible for the Protoss to ever break it with any sort of Dragoon. So this is a really, really good play for him overall. I'm a little bit surprised that Ruin hasn't even attempted to break up the ramp on this other base. There is no reinforcement over here, so it's pretty much just what's over here. He does finally scout out this base over here. Only one lurker on the ramp, so very good possibility of getting up here. There's no Nidus Canal. And I think Yapsap's probably just going to give up this base if he has to. Yeah, it looks like he's just going to be giving it up. He's decided to just go for a huge counterattack over here. So he's just going to be able to walk up this ramp. Oh my gosh, no. Okay, alright. That could have gone way worse. But he does get a couple of these lurkers up to the high ground, which was a pretty big deal because it masks his ability to be able to get up here. And he's going to run around to the other side, actually, coming up on both sides right now. And that's a mist storm. Going to be able to get right on top of these cannons, start doing some pretty serious damage. So at this point, wow, oh my god, this base isn't actually dead. The Nidus Canal is going down. If he gets this Nidus Canal down, he's going to actually be able to survive. But at the same time, Ruin just kind of going for this Hail Mary into the natural, knowing that he's going to lose his fourth base. He needs to do some pretty serious damage. So he's just going to go straight in here and start trying to get some damage done. But unfortunately, all of these Dragoons getting blocked in this choke. The storm is pretty good, going to land on a lot of these Hydralisks. And if he can get on top of this, or even just kill off this Nidus Canal, it opens up a lot of possibilities for him. But he's being surrounded right now by all these lurkers coming in from the third base. And right now, Ruin's army is just in shambles. He's going to be dropping in supply. He's lost his fourth base. This is horrible. And the fifth base of Zerg was actually saved. Oh my god. This is incredible for Yapsap right now. He's going to be pulling ahead in the supply pretty soon after he kills off this army, and he can go for a huge counterattack and probably even kill this third, or just go straight for the guts of the Protoss right now. This is such a huge swing of momentum right now, and especially because his upgrades are really killer sick. He's got 3-2 on his all of his ranged units, on his lurkers and Hydralisks, and he's got 2-2 on his lings. These are so powerful right now. Gonna be able to discover this potential fourth base for the Protoss and stop it on time. I don't know, this is getting really rough. The upgrades for Protoss are actually pretty good too, so overall this is pretty even, and once the Plasma Shield upgrades start getting going, this could be a lot more difficult. But overall, this is a really, really good place right now. I love the usage of just adding in a couple of these DTs, but Yapsap is being too smart. He's already got the Overlord in here to deal with this. He knows that DTs are a very realistic possibility. He wants to make sure that he can pick them off and pick off observers and things like that. These are really good storms doing a lot of damage, but this will eventually cause the Protoss player to run out of steam, especially if they keep trading like this. Going to be losing that free Archon, more and more units just pouring in, and right now the macro from Yapsap is looking very, very strong. I love the addition of the, oh my gosh, the shuttle gets picked off immediately. I was going to say the shuttle is really good, but that's the GG. Really well played from Yapsap, just kind of taking control of the early game and his early lead to just kind of swing that momentum really hard in his favor. Really appreciate Yapsap's particular style of just playing very standard, very safe, and getting really, really strong. So very well played by him. We have our next map, which unfortunately I did not check the map name. But you know what? Let's find out real quick. It'll only take a second. I actually don't recognize that map off the top of my head because I've been out of things for a little bit. It's going to be on Quintessence. I don't know Quintessence. That's a new map. So we'll discover it together. We'll go ahead and get rid of the production panel because I know that nobody actually wants to see that. Alright. I don't know what the hotkey is off the top of my head to reveal the whole map. Could just try black sheep wall. No, okay. Up in the 12 o'clock, well, more like the 1 o'clock position, is going to be our golden Protoss player. It's going to be Ruin. And down here in the 5 o'clock position, going to be our Zerg player, Yapsap. So it looks like a little bit like this map is... I think it's a 2-player map, judging by what I'm seeing right here. It's going to have a lot of symmetry in it. Here is our natural base for the Protoss player with a gateway. Pretty interesting with these power generators plus the mineral fields, which allows you to get to this high ground. And as we see over here, there's a base up on this high ground, or potentially you can get behind the mineral lines at the natural. So pretty interesting map overall. Oh, I take it back. This is definitely a 4-player map. It's just got funky spawns to it. So this is pretty interesting. So our Protoss player actually going to be going for Gateway first this time instead of the Nexus. Felt like his economic advantage last game wasn't enough, so he's going to be going into a little bit more of an aggressive play to try to get the ball back in his court. Meanwhile, Zerg player, pretty standard 3-hatch, but there is no spawning pool, and this drone is already headed over here, so this looks like it is going to be a 3-hatch before pool. 3-hatch before pool, very, very strong. Actually surprisingly good versus gateway openers, just because even though you do get a little bit of a later pool, you're not really worried about any sort of cannon rushes, and mostly just getting a bunch of lings up pretty early. So overall, this isn't too bad. As long as he doesn't lose a lot of drones early on, this is going to come out pretty well in favor of Yapsap. So this is really good for him. Both players know where each other is spawning. This probe just trying to be annoying and get as much damage in as possible so that the Zealot can come in and just tag a lot of these drones. If you don't know, a 2 Zealot hits plus a probe hit is a dead drone. So you want to try to, as much as possible, you want to try to tag everything with the probe at least once and then fire with the Zealot. But so far, really good micro from Yapsap. Going to be able to get on top of this Zealot and just glitch him out forever. And only losing 1 drone, that's actually a really good defense overall. Second Zealot is coming in right now though, so this could get a little bit hairy pretty quickly. So far, really good splits from our Zerg player, really good drone drills. And he's probably going to be able to kill at least one of these Zealots off pretty soon. Second drone goes down. Oh my gosh, these drone drills are actually really, really good. So 3 drones overall. The Zealots are out right now. And that is held pressure. So really well done by Yapsap. He's got these 3 hatches up. Meanwhile, back at home, just the standard Nexus forge behind this. And the beauty of opening this way as a Zerg player is if you hold off this early Zealot pressure, all of a sudden you just have a ton of larvae. And the Protoss player can't do anything to you, so you just make nothing but drones forever. Because at least 2 of these Zealots have to be sitting at home at all times just to make sure that nothing goes by, at least until this cannon goes up. But even then, you really want to make sure that this is blocked off. And all you really need to be careful of is Zealots doing some sort of run-bys and getting sneaky, trying to hide behind mineral lines. But this isn't a particularly good map for hiding behind the mineral lines, except for maybe like right here. Or in the natural. I don't know if you can fit a Zealot in here, but that might be pretty good place to wedge it in. He's actually going to move out with these 4 Zealots and try to attack into the natural, and there's really not a lot here for Yapsap right now. Yeah, I thought I turned that off. Alright. Yeah, so these Zealots moving out, and Yapsap playing pretty relatively calm. He does have this early Hydralisk den, so it looks like it's going to be sort of like a 3-hatch Hydra opening. But these Zealots just walking straight into the main, like, you know, it's no problem. We're actually friendly, don't worry. And the Zerg player going to be able to get on top of this. Lots of lings coming out, and with good micro, he's going to be able to deal with this pretty well. I don't particularly love the drone pool, but he's going to be able to slow down these zealots and get really nice rounds on them. And once he gets through to these zealots, he's going to be able to kill those off, and could potentially have some hydras coming in pretty soon. So the hydras are out now. The jig is out. The Protoss player knows exactly what's going on. And actually gets a very early robo facility. So this is definitely going to be Corsair Reaver. But I'm not sure that Corsair Reaver is the best thing to do versus a 3-hatch Hydra push. Because he's going to have to build, at minimum, a 4 to 6 cannons in order to deal with this. Depending on how dedicated the Zerg player is to this push. At the very least, it's guaranteed that the Zerg player is going to get the gateway and the forge. Unless he messes up. And this is a pretty good spot again for Yapsap. He's got only the 1 gas still. He's going to be going into a 4th base as soon as he gets full saturation. And he's probably making a lot more drones now behind this. Meanwhile, just picking off this gateway with whatever he has. There's really not a lot of Hydras, so I'm a little bit worried. Oh my gosh. I was really totally expecting the clever snipe on this one Hydra, but he's actually just going to be able to push this away. Oh my god, that is the sickest thing I've ever seen. Alright, so middle map, 4th base for the Zerg player. Looks like Yapsap is going to be playing really, really forward right now, and I think he's confident right now that he's in a really good place. Going to be having Reavers coming out right now. The 3rd base is going down behind us, but I think maybe he expected a very safe 4th base to be going down, and that's why he decided to take this middle map. He's going to be able to kill off the Overlord here, though, which may prompt Yapsap to run back just because he's not sure if there are... He's not sure if there are going to be DTs coming out anytime soon. He really doesn't know what the tech is at all. But if he doesn't see any DTs for a little while, he doesn't see anything, he can kind of guess that it's going to be Reavers. This forward 4th base is actually the sickest thing I've ever seen, so I love that. Meanwhile, lots of hatcheries coming down. He's going up to 6 hatches. Gonna be getting that 2nd gas. Probably a 3rd gas coming up pretty soon as well. Middle of the map, so this is looking really, really good for him right now. Meanwhile, Protoss player taking this 3rd base. He's got the shuttle out now with 1 Reaver. We'll see how much damage he can actually do with this. Only 2 Corsairs though. He put himself really far behind by going for a Corsair Reaver build versus a 3-hatch Hydra bus, so this could definitely be problematic for him. But he's going to be able to, I think he actually scouts this mid base map, so he's going to know that that's there now. And be able to do something about that later. But he's actually just going to go ahead and drop in the main, see if he can get a couple drone kills. And there doesn't seem to be anything here to defend. Ooh, that could have been a really big hit. Oh my god, oh my god. Oh, it didn't go off. Yeah, okay, that's not gonna hit. Or will it? No, okay, it's not. That's a done. So, unfortunately, the shuttle, the Reaper in the shuttle doesn't get as much damage as he would like. Oh, never mind. That was amazing. Okay. That Reaver just paid for itself. That is absolutely, totally fine. Literally, that puts Ruin back in the game. So that was really good. Well played by him. Right now he's going to be seeing a gateway surge. He's going to be having Zealot legs on the way pretty soon, I assume. Going to go ahead and start attacking this middle base map, which I think was a little bit over the top. He can still use the shuttle and the Reaver to pressure elsewhere while using these couple of Zealots to do some serious damage in middle. And I think he's just going to right-click this, to be honest. It's actually, with the drones here, it's actually kind of difficult to go for it because Since it's surrounded, it's really easy to glitch them out with drone drills, so funny fact. Yeah, unfortunately, this Reaver is actually stuck back here. If you had the Reaver in the middle, he definitely could have taken down this fourth base for basically free. Right now, he's still just stuck in his base. He's going to be going for the second shuttle, and I hope that he's going to be going pretty aggressive soon. Here come the legs. The micro from Yapsap from these like handful of Hydras is actually pretty insane, so I really appreciate that. A couple more Hydras on the way, so we're going to see a big defense here in the middle. With these two Reavers, it's unlikely that he's going to be able to hold this, and I think, yeah, he knows he's just going to go ahead and pull the drones, give up the space. It was really, really, it was really risky to go for that in the first place. I'm not sure exactly what he expected was going to happen, but at least he got a couple of extra minerals from the center patches. So overall, not a horrible loss for the Zerg player. Just going to be going into the 3 base play. Probably has Lurker Aspect on the way. And once he has Lurker Aspect, he'll take a 4th and start going into the Hive. But in the meantime, he has to be really careful about this shuttle. It could do a lot of damage. I really like this play, just being really careful about the way that he's putting these down. Unfortunately, that one Hydra's glitched out a lot. Gonna be able to finally push this back though, so. Alright, cool. So a tip for all you Zerg players, if you do open up with a Hydralisk build, or even a Lurker build in ZvT, you want to make sure you get your Spire eventually, because the Scourge are going to become really, really invaluable later in the game. So just make sure you get your Spire at the same time that you're going up to Hive. This is pretty much a fail-safe timing for you to use. Pretty good splits from Yapsap, going to be able to dodge most of those storms, but in the meantime, we have this 4th base going down for the Protoss player. And this is kind of what we saw in the last game, but in reverse, where the Protoss player is going to be taking these bases and putting a lot of pressure on the Zerg player to do things, because if you don't do something about this, it's going to be really problematic. He's got the Reavers already up, so Reavers plus cannons are pretty strong, and then you just add 1 or 2 Templar, and this is pretty much unbreakable. So overall, really nice play from Bryan. It's going to be heading into a pretty comfortable late game. Well, we got 1-1 coming up on the Protoss units. For Zerg, we have 1-0. Probably another upgrade coming up fairly soon. But securing this 4th base, a 5th base is most likely going to be on the way as well. And right now it's just a waiting game in the macro. More gateways coming in from our Protoss player, trying to get that gateway explosion up to about 10 to 12. 10 to 12 is kind of the number that we shoot for as a Protoss player in the late game. If you have a lot of money in a huge bank, which right now Ruin actually does have quite a big mineral bank, he might actually even go up to 15 or 16 gateways, and that way you can just reinforce almost instantly. So this is very well played by Ruin so far, and just keep in mind that this shuttle is still back here. He still has, at any point in time, he still has the backstab potential on this mineral line, on this mineral line, on this mineral line. They're all exposed to this shuttle. Trying to carefully go down to this base, but also keeping a good tabs on this Zerg army, seeing that there's going to be a big counterattack coming in, so he's actually pulling back and just sending a couple of zealots down here to harass. So this is very nicely done. Going to be able to intercept this and get off some pretty good storms. This is actually a very good angle for the Protoss player. All of these units are just so clumped together, and this is going to be an absolute massacre. I think that this is kind of an all-in from Yapsap. I think he'll probably just GG after losing this. Yep, GG. Well played by Ruin. Kind of turning the tables on his opponent a little bit, going aggressive where he needed to be, but otherwise just putting the economic pressure on Yapsap to try to get things done. And when Yapsap couldn't get anything done, by the way, holy cow, 404 APM. That's a pretty fast player. Alright, our third set is going to be on Bubbles. What map is Bubbles, you might ask? The answer is, I do not know. So we'll find out. Down here in the bottom right-hand corner is going to be our brown Protoss player, Ruin. And over here in the bottom left-hand corner, our red Zerg player, Yapsap. So I'm pretty interested in, this looks like another fairly large 4-player map. So I'm pretty interested in seeing, I would like to see something more aggressive, but considering how standard and macro oriented both these players play, I think we're probably going to see another macro slugfest where basically they just leave each other alone for a long time and then go kill each other in the middle. We do. Side note, I really love this addition, these little doodads on the map that just kind of let you know where placement is. This is something that I've been a little bit more relatively recent, like within the past like 10 years. Before that, all of the bases looked like this for your natural, and so it was kind of annoying because you'd be like in a hurry to put something down and like you'd be slightly off, and if your natural is off like this, like that's actually like game-breakingly bad. Like you're actually just going to lose the game. It's pretty bad. So I'm glad that they have little markers there. It'll be the gateway first, again coming out from Ruin, just to allow him to put a little bit of pressure on. Last game it worked out pretty well for him overall. I would say that they came out pretty even after the early Zealot pressure, with maybe Yapsap a little bit in the lead, but in this particular case, I don't think it's ever a bad idea to put pressure on your opponent, especially if your opponent does so much better just macroing up and being able to do whatever they want to. So, not going to be an ultra greedy play this time, going to be the hatch pool, and probably a third hatch coming down pretty soon. I'd expect it to go down here at the 9 o'clock position. But he might go for a faraway expansion on this particular map just because this map is pretty big. And this map reminds me, this is actually Fighting Spirit right now. This is literally Fighting Spirit. So, pretty interesting to know. Fighting Spirit, you've got this big bridge over here. You've got the pathway over here. Another bridge over here. And then you have the third base on the high ground. So, definitely feels very much like Fighting Spirit, but maybe a little bit more updated. Zealot is scouted coming out right now. It's going to be a Nexus behind this as well. It's a little bit focused on his macro and floating money, so that Nexus is going to be a little bit late, but shouldn't be much of a problem. Zerglings are going to be out much earlier now, so he really shouldn't even have to worry about fighting. Like, he can honestly just pull drones forever. And overall, this is pretty good. I love waiting for the Zealot to make the move. Just kind of expecting that the Zealot will eventually get impatient and try to move out. Oh, he does lose one of these drones down here at the natural while he's trying to micro in the main. This probe is actually causing so many problems, but here's our third base going out for the Zerg player. He's actually just going to let the probe get into the main and see what's going on. He's going to run his Zerglings over here, maybe to put a little bit of pressure. I hope he has some more Zerglings on the way, because it could be a little bit dangerous. Oh, not paying attention, going to lose that probe for free. And as long as the Protoss player is not paying attention, it should be fine. But he actually is going to be attacking at the front. The cannon isn't quite finished yet. Going to be able to pick off maybe a couple of probes at the very least. Picks off 3, maybe 4. Okay, not quite getting the 4th. I think it was a bit of a mistake to focus down this gateway. He probably should have just dove straight for that cannon. Maybe he felt like he couldn't get past all the probes. In any case, I would say that the game has pretty much equalized out. We only lost, I think, 2 drones? 2 drones? 1 drone? I think it was actually only 1 drone for Yapsap. So he's actually going to be in a pretty fantastic spot. He's really aggressive with these lings. I'm not sure exactly what that's about. But he does have quite a few links. He's got some idle larvae. I wonder if he's going to be going for some sort of 3-hatch Hydra play, and he is! So we do see the Hydra den thrown down. He's going to be making up a little bit of money for that. Putting on pressure yet again. So this is actually something that I noticed quite a while back, probably back in like circa 2017, back when this sort of play was becoming more and more standard, going for the gateway, the natural, and putting on pressure with the zealots early on. I realized that if you just went into a 3-hatch Hydra play, you could put a lot of pressure on the front, and because the Protoss player delayed their Nexus for so long, they actually have quite a hard time dealing with it, because they don't have the sort of tech that they want behind it for a very long time. So I think 3-hatch Hydra is actually a very strong counter to this gateway first type of play, as long as you just have really solid micro behind it and make sure that you don't lose too many drones early on. Your speed on the way. Looks like the Hydras are morphing. They're going to be coming over here pretty soon. Going for the +1 upgrade really early on. He's only got 1 cannon though, and no information. So this could actually be deadly right now. It's really important. I always say that as a Protoss player, you want to make sure that you always have an extra probe out on the map, probe or a zealot, something, because if this happens to you where you don't have any scouting information and 6 or 7 Hydras come knocking on your front door and you only have 2 cannons, you actually just lose the game. So he is going to see the first Hydra now. He's actually just going to push out and try to push these back, I guess, but not going to happen. He really needs to start throwing down cannons right now. He needs like 4 extra cannons. He will lose the game. A little bit indecisive, I think, from Yapsap for not going for this cannon immediately. But I think maybe he just feels like he has enough time to break down this front, and then he can do a really straightforward bust. So this is actually horrible right now for Ruin. Ruin might actually just straight up lose. He really just needs to get these lings in like right now. He can't allow these cannons to finish. If these cannons finish, he's not actually going to be able to complete this push. Maybe he was a little bit preoccupied with some stuff back at home, but he's actually just going to let his opponent build a bunch of cannons and try to macro behind this. I think this was a bit of a mistake because he actually could have straight up won there for sure. I'll wait for the range. Range is going to be able to kill this off, and that is a canceled +1. But whoa, double forge in the main. This is quite unusual. Now he's going to go for it, but all of these cannons have now finished. I'll kill off a lot of these zealots and be able to get on top of the cannons now. And the probes are actually being pulled. Is he going to be able to break this? I don't think so. There's too many cannons, and I actually think that was a mistake of him to try to dive in there and trade like that. In any case, back at home, he does have a lot of drones being made. He's got some defense for his overlord, so this isn't the end of the world for him. A couple of cannons cancel. That's really greedy, but he does have this scouting Corsair, so he is seeing all the drones come out. He does have full information. So it's just going to be a really heavy gateway style from Ruin, and it looks like he's just going to try to break out of here with brute force. I actually really like the plays from both players right now. Yapsap saying, well, hey, so I got a lot of damage done early on. I destroyed your economy by making you make like 10 cannons. So behind this, I'm just going to drone up. I have all the pressure in the world. It's going to be a long time before you can put on pressure, so I'm going to be perfectly fine. And Ruin saying, well, okay, it's going to be a long time before I can put on pressure. So I'm going to make sure that pressure is really strong. So I love this double upgrade style. He's going to have Storm behind it as well. This actually does get scouted by an Overlord. Going to be able to see all these gateways coming down. Hopefully we'll be able to see the double forge. And there's a couple different ways to play against this. As the Zerg player, you can either try to go ahead and get a really early fourth and then just double down on defenses, so that you can just behind that you can get a ton of upgrades, you can get lurkers, and there's not really much the Protoss can do. Or what you can do is you can just go straight into the tech and stay on the 3 bases and just try to match the Protoss player pound for pound. But based on this drone, looks like it is going to be that early 4th base. He does have the +1 attack on the way. I hope to see Lurker Aspect on the way pretty soon as well. And overall, this is just, it's a fantastic spot for Yapsap as long as he doesn't take significant damage from the big push that's going to be coming in eventually. Oh my god, this is so many High Templars. What is this? This is six High Templars? This is actually going to be a very, very all-in push from Ruin right now. He's actually going to be going up to +2/+2 to have a total of at least 12 storms, which is so many storms. That's an insane amount of storms. And if he is able to actually get out of this base comfortably, he could actually do some pretty serious damage. My only concern... Oh, nice. I love the Dark Archon as well. Just in case there's any sort of mutaplay, or if you can catch a big clump of Hydras early on with Maelstrom, it can be actually pretty huge. So I like this play overall. The one thing I do worry about is if by the time he moves out his base, his opponent has Lurkers, he may not have Observers, but as I say that, I find the Observatory, so he's probably going to be okay. A couple of Zealots going to come out and just kind of put a little bit of pressure. Zealots are pretty expendable. You can trade Zealots for Hydras early on, or at least just force them to run around, and it's okay. Because mostly you're just trying to get your Dragoon count up and try to get your High Templar so that you have a very strong base army, and then you just flood with a bunch of Zealots behind that. So behind this road is just kind of controlling the front. He's got this 4th base up. So many drones. Oh my god. So he's already at max saturation. He's got +2 attack on the way. I would expect to see a couple more Evo chambers, but actually he's just going to be going for a really straightforward 6-7 hatch Hydra plus the extra Lurkers. So this extra base though, I think this is going to be very defensive. Oh my gosh, Ruin actually finding potentially a way out, but actually he's going to be stopped. Hold. Actually, he does find a way out eventually. Having all these bridges is very nice for allowing the Protoss player for being able to get out of their base and start to move out. And oh my gosh, great Maelstrom on all of these Hydras. He's going to be able to get on top of all of these Lurkers as well. And this is horrible right now for Yapsap. Yapsap just lost all of his defensive capability. He only has 3 Lurkers morphing in right now. That's literally his entire army is 3 Lurkers and a couple of Hydras. And this army is still so scary. There's still so many storms in here. This is absolutely terrifying. And behind this, we do have a 4th base. I think maybe going for this 5th base was a little bit too greedy for our Zerg player, but I guess we'll find out. Right now, Ruin playing very safe. He doesn't want to overcommit to any one particular place, but you saw the way that he moved up to the higher bridge and then moved back down to this bridge. It's a very clever way to just make sure that he pushes the Zerg player out of position and gets in the way that he wants to. And right now he's going to be able to get in. Very careful play moving up here. Great storms coming down. And this might just be the beginning of the end. Unless all of the Zealots end up going away. This is pretty terrifying. He still has so many storms though. So any clumps of Zealots, any clumps of Hydras are just going to completely melt. Yeah, and all these Hydras trying to flank just don't get anything done at all. And he's going to be able to push through now. He still has both of his Observers alive. He's being very careful about moving them around. And this is looking like a Protoss win overall. Another great storm on top of these Hydras. And there's the GG. Well played by Ruin. He's going to be taking the series 2-1. Well played by Ruin. Excellent games. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. And tune back into StarCastTV for more casts every week. Signing out, Allyssa Gray. Bye!